The Lego sky rumbled as heavy rain poured down on the glowing streets of Victoria Island. Neon lights from shops flickered against puddles, and people hurried under umbrellas, their footsteps splashing as they rushed for cover. By the entrance of a busy supermarket, a man in his late 40s, Chinedu, stood soaked from head to toe. His faded work uniform clung to his thin frame, the color almost washed away by years of labor and now by the storm. In his trembling hands was a plastic bag with nothing inside but a half loaf of bread. His voice cracked as he called out softly, "Please, small help, my people anything at all." Most passers-by ignored him. Some frowned and kept walking. He shivered in silence, his hair wet, his beard rough. Yet his eyes carried a quiet dignity, a man weathered by storms but not fully broken. Suddenly, the sound of engines cut through the rain. A sleek black Mercedes Maybach pulled into the VIP parking spot. The door opened, and out stepped Kehinde Williams, a tall, confident man in his late 30s, dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit. He was the kind of man Legos magazines called the Billionaire of the New Age. His wealth was legendary, his face known in every business circle. Bodyguards rushed forward with umbrellas. But Kehinde raised his hand, choosing to walk under the rain. He wanted the moment raw, untouched. Then his eyes stopped. There, kneeling on the wet pavement, was Chinedu, the janitor who had once saved his life many years ago, back when Kehinde was nothing more than a broke student hustling his way through university. Chinedu raised his head slowly. Rain streamed down his face, but when his eyes met Kehinde's, his lips trembled. "Kehinde," he whispered, his voice fragile. The people under the supermarket canopy gasped. A billionaire was staring at a beggar in the storm. For a long, heavy moment, Kehinde didn't move. His chest tightened, memories flooding back. Then he stepped forward, ignoring the umbrella his guard tried to cover him with. "Chinedu," he said firmly, his voice cutting through the rain. The crowd hushed, eyes wide. Chinedu tried to stand, but his legs gave way, and he fell back into the puddle. His hands shook as he muttered, "I never wanted you to see me like this." But Kehinde reached down, gripping his arm and pulling him gently up. His voice broke, not from the rain, but from something deeper. "No, my brother, you are the reason I'm alive today." And as thunder rolled above, it felt as though the heavens themselves bore witness to a story about to change everything. The rain poured harder, turning the supermarket's parking lot into a mirror of flashing lights and rippling puddles. People huddled under the canopy, whispering and pointing. Phones lit up, capturing the scene. Kehinde still held Chinedu's arm, steadying him as the older man struggled to find balance. His once firm shoulders shook from the cold, his breath unsteady. Kehinde's head of security, Mr. Ballaghan, stepped forward nervously. "Sir, let's move inside. You'll catch a cold." But Kehinde didn't move. His gaze was fixed on Chinedu, memories rushing back. The dusty corridors of the university dormitory, the night of the fire, the janitor who had risked everything to drag a fainted student out of smoke. That student had been him. Kehinde's voice softened. "Chinedu, after all these years." Chinedu tried to smile, but his lips trembled. His words came slowly, broken by the rain. I thought you'd forgotten me. People forget janitors. People forget cleaners. But I never forgot the boy who used to greet me every morning with respect." Kehinde's chest tightened. He pulled off his own suit jacket and draped it over Chinedu's shoulders. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Legos' most famous billionaire was covering a beggar with his designer jacket. A young woman in the crowd whispered to her friend, "Is that not Kehinde Williams? The man from the business magazines?" Her friend nodded. "And that old man, who was he to him?" Chinedu lowered his head, ashamed. "I did not want you to see me like this. Kehinde, life pushed me down. The years after the fire, everything went wrong. I lost my job, my family moved away. Sickness followed me, and here I am begging just to eat." His voice cracked. Tears mixed with the rain. Kehinde bent slightly, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Do you know why I never forgot you, Chinedu? Because without you, I would not be here today. You gave me another chance at life. And today, it is my turn to give you another chance." Chinedu's knees wobbled, and he sank slowly to the ground again, overwhelmed. "No, sir, you are a great man now. People like me, we don't belong in your world." Kehinde reached down once more, refusing to let him fall. "My world would never exist without you. From today, your struggles are my struggles." The crowd murmured louder. Some wiped their eyes. A taxi driver passing by stopped his car just to watch, muttering under his breath, and see true-life film happening before us. Kehinde turned sharply to Baligan. "Clear the way. We're leaving with him. Now!" The guards hurried to obey, rushing to open the Maybach's doors. But Kehinde ignored the car. Instead, he guided Chinedu gently toward the vehicle himself, shielding him from the rain with his arm. As they moved, a young boy in the crowd, no older than 10, shouted, "God bless you, sir. God bless you for helping him." Kehinde paused, looking back at the boy, then at the crowd. His voice carried through the storm. "We are nothing without kindness. Today, let the world see what true wealth is." The applause was soft at first, then grew louder. In the middle of Lego's chaos, for one fleeting moment, strangers stood united by something more powerful than money: compassion. Kehinde helped Chinedu into the Maybach, then followed behind. The car doors closed with a quiet thud. As the vehicle pulled away, rain washing over its sleek black body, the people outside remained still, knowing they had just witnessed the beginning of a story that would echo far beyond the storm. The Maybach glided silently through the rain-soaked streets of Victoria Island, wipers sweeping rhythmically. Inside, the warm glow of the interior lights contrasted with the storm outside. Chinedu sat stiffly in the back seat, soaked clothes sticking to his skin despite the soft leather beneath him. Kehinde sat beside him, his eyes heavy with thought. Across from them, Mr. Baligan, the head of security, sat uncomfortably, stealing glances at the old man who dripped rainwater onto the Billionaire's pristine car floor. Chinedu's fingers clutched the plastic bag with a half loaf of bread, as though it was treasure. Every now and then, he would shift nervously, whispering under his breath, "I shouldn't be here." Kehinde turned toward him. His voice was calm but commanding. "You are here because you belong here, and because I owe you more than you can imagine." The car turned into the gated driveway of the Williams estate, a sprawling mansion with tall iron gates, floodlights illuminating the palm trees and gardens. Guards saluted as the vehicle rolled past, whispering into radios, their eyes following curiously. When the car stopped in front of the grand entrance, house staff hurried to the doors, umbrellas ready. As Kehinde stepped out, his driver held the door for Chinedu, but the older man hesitated. His worn sandals, muddy and broken, touched the polished marble steps, and he froze. "I can't," he murmured, staring at the golden lights glowing from the mansion's massive windows. "This place is not for me. Look at me. I will stain the floor." Kehinde placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "You once carried me out of a burning building. Do you think marble floors matter to me more than your life?" Chinedu's eyes glistened as he slowly stepped forward. His feet left small wet prints on the marble as he entered the mansion. Inside, the estate gleamed crystal chandeliers, tall pillars, walls lined with modern art. The air smelled of polished wood and lavender. For Chinedu, it was like stepping into another world. His eyes darted everywhere, filled with disbelief. Suddenly, Mrs. Williams, Kehinde's wife, appeared at the top of the staircase, a graceful woman in her mid-30s. She wore a flowing silk gown. Behind her, their teenage daughter, Amara, peeked curiously. "Kehinde," Mrs. Williams called, her tone sharp with surprise. "Who is this man you brought into our home?" Kehinde looked up at her, his voice steady. "This is Chinedu, the man who saved my life years ago." Gasps rippled among the staff gathered nearby. Murmurs spread quickly. "Save his life? Who is he really?" Mrs. Williams descended the stairs, her eyes scanning Chinedu from head to toe. His wrinkled uniform, his dripping hair, his trembling hands. "You brought him here? Into our home?" Chinedu lowered his gaze, ashamed. "Madam, forgive me. I did not mean to intrude. I can leave right away." But Kehinde stepped between them. His tone sharpened. "He is not leaving. Not tonight. Not ever, unless he wishes to." This man gave me my future. Today, I give him back his dignity. The silence was heavy. Mrs. Williams glanced at the staff, all waiting for her reaction. At last, she sighed and turned to Kehinde. You always follow your heart, don't you? Kehinde nodded, and it has never failed me. The tension eased slightly, but Amara, their daughter, stepped forward. Her young eyes were wide with curiosity. Papa, is it true? He saved your life. Kehinde crouched beside her, pulling her close. Yes, Amara. Long before I was who I am today, I was just a student with dreams. One night, those dreams almost ended, but Chinedu pulled me out of the fire with his own hands. Without him, you would never have had a father. Amara turned her gaze toward Chinedu, her expression softening. Slowly, she walked to him, taking his weathered hand in hers. Thank you, sir, she whispered. Chinedu's eyes filled with tears. His lips trembled as he struggled to speak. At last he whispered back, You are welcome, my child. The moment broke the tension in the room. Even Mrs. Williams, though still uneasy, softened slightly at the sight of her daughter, showing gratitude. Kehinde clapped his hands lightly. Prepare a room. He will stay here tonight. One of the maids, still staring at Chinedu with wide eyes, bowed her head and hurried upstairs. Chinedu shook his head quickly. No, no, no. I cannot sleep in such a place. I am used to the streets. Give me only bread and water, and I will be fine outside the gate. Kehinde looked at him firmly. You will not sleep outside when I have a mansion with 30 rooms. Tonight, Chinedu, you rest under my roof. Tomorrow, we begin again. Chinedu's knees buckled, and he almost fell. He covered his face with his hands. Overwhelmed. God bless you. God bless you, Kehinde. I never thought I would see this day. Kehinde helped him up again, his grip steady and strong. No, Chinedu, it is I who should be saying those words to you. As the staff carried Chinedu's small nylon bag upstairs, whispers filled the hallways. Some were sympathetic, others doubtful. But one thing was clear. The life of Chinedu, the forgotten janitor, had just changed forever. And in the heart of the Williams mansion, a storm greater than the one outside was just beginning. The following morning, sunlight spilled across the Williams estate, painting the marble floors with golden light. The storm had cleared, but inside the mansion, another kind of storm brewed silently. Chinedu woke slowly in a guest bedroom, lying on crisp white sheets softer than anything he had ever touched. The air smelled faintly of lavender, and sunlight poured through tall windows with heavy curtains. He blinked in disbelief, sitting up carefully as if he feared breaking something. He touched the edge of the bed. This is not my world. His voice cracked with awe. Just then, the door opened and Amara, Kehinde's teenage daughter, peeked in with a shy smile. Good morning, Uncle Chinedu, she said softly. Chinedu stiffened. No, don't call me uncle. I am not worthy of such respect. But Amara stepped in, holding a tray of breakfast. Hot bread, fried eggs, and steaming tea. Papa says anyone who saved his life is part of this family. That makes you my uncle. Chinedu's hands trembled as he accepted the tray. He had not eaten a proper meal in days. Tears filled his eyes as he muttered a prayer. May God bless your young heart. Downstairs, Kehinde sat at the long dining table, sipping coffee while scanning through files. His wife, Kehinde Williams, entered in a silk robe, her expression tight. Kehinde, she began carefully, the whole staff is talking. Bringing that man here has stirred whispers everywhere. Even the neighbors are asking questions. Kehinde didn't look up. Let them talk. Kehinde frowned. You are a billionaire. Every move you make is under scrutiny. People are already speculating. Why is a beggar in your mansion? Who is he really? Some think he might even be blackmailing you. At that, Kehinde looked up sharply. Blackmail? That man risked his life to save me. He owes me nothing. It is I who owe him everything. Kehinde sighed, sitting across from him. I know he saved you, Kehinde. I respect that. But think about the business. Think about your reputation. One wrong headline, and shareholders will panic. Before Kehinde could respond, Balogun, the head of security, entered, holding a tablet. "Sir, you should see this." He placed the tablet on the table. On the screen was a trending blog post. "Billionaire Kehinde Williams seen embracing beggar in the rain. Who is this man?" The article was filled with blurry photos from the night before, Kehinde lifting Chinedu, covering him with his jacket, guiding him into the Maybach. The comments section was exploding. Maybe the man is his real father? What if this beggar knows a secret? Our billionaire has a soft heart, respect. He's destroying his image. Mixing with beggars? Shameful. Kehinde's jaw tightened. He turned the tablet off and pushed it aside. Let them say what they want. I know the truth. Balogun hesitated. "Sir, there's more." We dug deeper into Chinedu's past. Kehinde straightened in his seat. And Balogun lowered his voice. Years ago, after losing his janitor job at the university, he tried to find work, but someone blocked him everywhere he went. Every application, every interview, denied. His name was blacklisted. Irene gasped softly. "By who?" Balogun's eyes darkened. Records point back to Chief Oba Martins. Kehinde's face hardened instantly. Chief Martins was one of his fiercest rivals in the tech industry. A cunning man in his 50s, wealthy and ruthless, known for playing dirty. Why would Martins go after Chinedu? Kehinde asked, his voice low. Balogun hesitated. Because Chinedu once exposed a fraud scheme while working at a government office. That scheme was linked to Martins' company. Ever since, Martins has made sure Chinedu never worked again. The silence in the room was heavy. Chinedu's suffering had not been mere bad luck. It was orchestrated. Kehinde's fist clenched. All these years, while I built my empire, he was suffering because of Martins' greed. Upstairs, Chinedu finished his breakfast and sat quietly by the window, looking at the garden below. When he saw Kehinde pacing with Balogun in the courtyard, his heart grew uneasy. He could feel trouble brewing. That evening, Kehinde invited Chinedu to sit with him in the study. The walls were lined with books, and a fire glowed softly in the fireplace. Kehinde leaned forward. "Chinedu, why didn't you ever tell me that you were being targeted?" Chinedu lowered his gaze. "What would it have changed, Kehinde? You were chasing your dreams. I didn't want to burden you. I told myself maybe this was just my fate." Kehinde's voice grew firm. "No, this was not fate. This was betrayal, and I will not let it stand." Chinedu shook his head. "You are a great man now. Don't risk your empire for me. I am just one man." But Kehinde's eyes burned with resolve. "You are the man who gave me my life. If I protect millions through my business, why can I not protect the one who made it all possible?" At that moment, Irene entered the study, her face tight with worry. "Kehinde, I just received word. Chief Martins is spreading rumors. He's saying Chinedu is a fraud who pretended to save you all those years ago, just to win sympathy now. Investors are calling." Chinedu froze, his face paling. "No, I never asked for this." Kehinde slammed his fist lightly on the desk. "Martins has crossed a line. He thinks he can erase the truth. But tomorrow I will confront him face to face." The room grew silent. Chinedu looked at Kehinde, fear and hope battling in his eyes. "You would do that for me?" Kehinde placed a hand on his shoulder. "Not for you alone. For justice. For every man who has been silenced by people like him." Chinedu's eyes welled with tears, and he whispered, "Then may God give you strength, Kehinde, because this fight will not be easy." Kehinde straightened, his voice steady. "I don't need it to be easy. I just need it to be right." And as night fell over Lagos, the Williams mansion hummed with tension. The next day promised a storm far greater than the one that had soaked the city streets, a storm of truth, power, and redemption. The next day dawned bright over Lagos, but the city buzzed with tension. News outlets, blogs, and social media brimmed with speculation. The story of the billionaire and the beggar had spread everywhere. At the Williams estate, Kehinde stood in front of his mirror, adjusting his tie. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with determination. Behind him, Irene placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Are you sure about this?" she asked softly. Martins will fight dirty. Kehinde nodded firmly. He's already fighting dirty. But today we put an end to it. In the guest room, Chinedu knelt by the bed, whispering a prayer. He wore clean clothes for the first time in years, a simple shirt and trousers provided by Kehinde's staff. His reflection in the mirror looked like a man rediscovering himself. His hands trembled, but his spirit felt lighter. Downstairs, Amara waited by the door. When she saw Chinedu, her eyes lit up. "Uncle, you look like a new man." Chinedu smiled faintly. "All thanks to your father." Moments later, the motorcade rolled out of the estate and into the city. Inside the Suntech corporate tower, reporters swarmed the entrance. Cameras flashed as Kehinde stepped out of his car, Chinedu walking quietly beside him. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Is that the man?" "Yes, that's the beggar." "But why is he here?" Kehinde ignored them, his stride steady. Inside the grand boardroom, the air was thick. Executives filled the seats. At the far end sat Chief Oba Martins. Dressed in a cream agbada with gold embroidery, Martin's ring-laden fingers tapped impatiently on the polished table. His eyes gleamed with arrogance. "Kehinde Williams," Martin said with a smirk as Kehinde entered. "I wonder if you'd show your face after parading this man around like a hero." He gestured mockingly at Chinedu. The room grew silent. All eyes turned to Kehinde. Kehinde stood tall, his voice steady. "Do you know why I brought him here? Because truth does not hide in the dark forever." Martins leaned back, chuckling. "Truth? Or pity? Investors don't need fairy tales, Kehinde. They need strength. And you've chosen to side with weakness." Chinedu lowered his gaze, shame flickering in his eyes. Kehinde stepped closer to him, placing a firm hand on his shoulder. "Strength is not in how many men you crush, Martins. It is in how many men you lift." The words rippled across the boardroom. Some executives shifted in their seats, nodding subtly. Martin scoffed. "Fine words. But this man, this janitor, you expect us to believe he once saved you? Convenient story, Kehinde. You should be a writer, not a CEO." Kehinde's jaw tightened. Slowly, he reached into his briefcase and pulled out a file. He laid it on the table, opening it to reveal official university reports, witness statements, and photographs from the fire years ago. Here are the records. Chinedu was the only janitor on duty that night. He dragged me unconscious from the burning dormitory. The doctors confirmed it. The security logs confirmed it. This man risked his life while others ran. Without him, I would not be standing here today. Gasps echoed around the room. Martin's smirk faltered. Old papers. They proved nothing. But Kehinde wasn't finished. He signaled to Baligan, who entered with a projector. A video played on the screen, a shaky clip from a security camera salvaged from the university archives. It showed a younger Kehinde being pulled out of the smoke by a man in a janitor's uniform. Even through the grainy footage, Chinedu's face was clear. The room erupted in murmurs. Kehinde's voice thundered. "That is truth. The truth you tried to bury when you blacklisted him from every job, Martins. You wanted him erased because he once exposed your fraud. But today, the world sees what you tried to hide." Martin's face darkened. "Careful, Kehinde. You're treading dangerous ground." Kehinde's eyes blazed. "No, Martins. You are the danger to honesty, to justice, to this nation's future. And men like you do not scare me anymore." Silence. The board members exchanged glances. Some looked disgusted with Martins. Others leaned toward Kehinde with respect. At last, the chairman of the board, an elderly man with silver hair, spoke. "Chief Martins, these are serious revelations. Until further investigation, you are suspended from all dealings with this company." Martins rose angrily, his agbada swirling. "You will regret this, Kehinde," he spat, storming out of the room. But Kehinde stood firm. For the first time, Martin's power had been broken. As the room calmed, Kehinde turned to Chinedu. "My brother, today your name is restored." Chinedu's eyes brimmed with tears. He sank to his knees, but Kehinde quickly pulled him up. "No, Chinedu, you will not kneel to me. Not today, not ever again. You stood tall when I was helpless. And today, I stand tall because of you." Executives in the room applauded softly. Some even rose to shake Chinedu's hand. For the first time in decades, he felt seen, honored, respected. That evening, back at the Williams estate, the atmosphere was different. Staff greeted Chinedu warmly now, no longer with whispers, but with smiles. Amara clung to his hand as though he were family. At dinner, Kehinde raised a glass. "To the man who taught me that true wealth is not measured in money, but in humanity." Everyone echoed the toast. Chinedu bowed his head, overwhelmed. After the meal, Kehinde handed him an envelope. Inside were documents, a deed to a house in Surleer, a bank account in his name, and an official appointment as head of facilities at Williams Group. Chinedu's lips quivered. "This is too much." Kehinde shook his head. "It is only the beginning. You gave me my life. Now I give you back yours." Chinedu wept openly, his voice breaking. "Then let this be the lesson for all. Kindness never dies. What you give to another returns to you, even if years later." The camera of life had turned full circle. A janitor who once pulled a poor student from fire was lifted decades later by that same student, now a billionaire. The lesson was clear. Never look down on anyone. True strength is lifting others, not crushing them. Wealth without compassion is poverty in disguise. As the night grew calm, the Williams mansion glowed warmly. The storm had passed, not just in the sky, but in their lives. And somewhere deep inside, Chinedu realized dignity lost to be restored, and humanity, when honored, was the greatest wealth of all.